Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're here. As a professor of public health, I look at something that's just wildly fascinating, but also incredibly urgent. You see, throughout history, from ancient plagues that wiped out millions to modern crises that literally shut down the globe, disease outbreaks have drastically altered the course of human history. But here's the catch. Alongside every major biological threat comes a highly contagious secondary outbreak, an outbreak of fear, confusion, and conspiracy theories. So today, we're going to break down the anatomy of an infodemic.
Today, we're going to map out what I call the twin plagues. We'll dig into the psychology of fear, trace how misinformation actually spreads, look at the crisis of institutional trust, the real-world fallout, and finally, how we inoculate ourselves against these false narratives. Let's get right into it.
Okay, Section 1, the twin plagues, biological threats and societal panic. The historical reality here is pretty stark. Whenever there's an invisible biological threat, human panic is practically guaranteed. We faced a relentless parade of these invisible enemies, right? The Black Death back in 1347, the Spanish flu in 1918, the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 80s, swine flu, Ebola, and obviously COVID-19. It's so easy to just fixate on the medical dates and the pathogens themselves. But beneath all those facts and figures, there's this incredibly consistent behavioral pattern that we humans repeat every single time. And that pattern is what we call the secondary epidemic. It's the simultaneous explosion of fear, confusion, and straight-up conspiracy theories that tags along with every major disease crisis. Humanity's fight is literally never just against the bug in our bodies. It's equally a battle in our minds, a massive tug-of-war between facts and misinformation.
So let's dive into Section 2, the psychology of public health fear. Why does our biology, our psychology, actually crave these definitive and honestly often harmful explanations for things we can't see?
Well, the anatomy of a crisis basically follows four really predictable steps. First, a totally novel biological threat emerges. Second, because it's brand new, there is immense scientific uncertainty right out of the gate. Doctors and scientists just don't have all the answers yet. Third, that uncertainty creates a massive information void which breeds intense fear. And fourth, conspiracies rush in to fill that void. When we're terrified, we desperately want explanations, and human nature is such that simple, even sinister answers often feel way more comforting than just admitting, hey, we don't know the facts yet.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this psychology plays out identically across centuries. Think about the Black Death in 1347. People blamed witchcraft or divine punishment or claimed marginalized groups were poisoning the wells. Now fast forward to modern COVID-19 or hantavirus fears. The theories just kind of update with the times, right? We get rumors of lab creation, 5G towers making us sick, microchips and vaccines. The target of the fear updates based on whatever technology is around, but the underlying human behavioral response, that deep need to pin an invisible threat on a tangible enemy, stays exactly the same.
To really wrap our heads around the terror driving this, just consider this staggering number, 75 to 200 million. That's the estimated death toll of the Black Death. Imagine living through that era with basically zero modern scientific knowledge. It is completely predictable that mortality on that sheer scale sparked mass panic and violence. When science can't give us the answer, fear steps right in to take the wheel.
Moving to Section 3, vectors of mass misinformation. Because these false narratives don't just magically appear everywhere at once. They transmit from person to person, exactly like the diseases do. Now, what's really interesting here is contrasting the biological vectors with the evolving information vectors. So for the Black Death, the biological vector was fleas on rats, but the information vector was just simple, slow word of mouth. By the Spanish flu in 1918, the vector shifted to print media and wartime censorship, which historians tell us heavily fueled public rumors because real death tolls were hidden from the daily papers. Fast forward to swine flu and COVID-19, the biology is still respiratory, but the information vector, viral social media algorithms. The speed at which false info travels has been completely revolutionized. Today, social media algorithms amplify that fear instantly. They act as digital superspreaders. Studies actually show that a false rumor reaches people up to 6 times faster than the truth. So what used to be a little isolated local rumor during the plague era can literally become a globally synchronized conspiracy overnight. During recent outbreaks, the internet has absolutely become ground zero, a major battleground where facts and fictions are competing in real time.
Which brings us to Section 4, the crisis of institutional trust. We've seen how these rumors travel, but we've got to look at the underlying societal conditions that make a population so eager to accept them.
Think of systemic mistrust as a societal comorbidity. Look at how a baseline lack of trust fuels specific narratives across totally different diseases. During the HIV/AIDS crisis, deep-seated stigma and fear led to beliefs that governments were actively targeting specific communities or hiding cures for profit. With swine flu, claims erupted that pharmaceutical companies planned the whole thing just to push unsafe vaccines. And recently, with hantavirus fears, online rumors falsely claimed governments were hiding engineered outbreaks. You see, if pre-existing trust in governments and medical institutions isn't solid before a crisis hits, the soil is already perfectly fertilized for conspiracy theories to just take root.
Okay, Section 5, Real-World Public Health Impacts. So the crucial point is, why does this actually matter? Are we just talking about harmless internet chatter, or are there real, tangible consequences here?
Well, listen to this harsh reality. These beliefs sometimes cause communities to resist medical help. Let's just pause to really let that sink in. We're not just talking about silly online rabbit holes here. We are dealing with literal life-or-death stakes. When misinformation takes over during a severe health crisis, it actively blocks life-saving interventions.
And this tangible fallout spans continents and decades. During the horrific Ebola outbreaks in West Africa, rumors spread that foreign doctors brought the disease, or that clinics were harvesting organs. That led directly to communities fighting back against the very medical workers trying to save their lives. With swine flu, claims of unsafe vaccines discouraged critical immunizations. And we all lived through the impact during COVID-19, right? Where misinformation completely disrupted lockdowns, schooling, and stretched our healthcare systems to the absolute breaking point. Misinformation literally extends the lifespan and the destruction of the biological pathogen.
Finally, Section 6, Inoculating Against False Narratives. We've diagnosed the disease, so what's the public health prescription for our minds?
The most critical defense we have is this: think critically, verify your information, and rely on trusted scientific evidence. Just like a physical vaccine protects your body, applying rigorous critical thinking inoculates your mind against these false claims. Now look, not every official statement is going to be perfect right out of the gate. Science is a continuous process. It updates as we learn more. But even with that uncertainty, trusted scientific evidence is still, by far, our absolute best tool for navigating our way out of the darkness of an outbreak.
Which leaves us with one really vital question to ponder. Are we prepared to fight the next psychological contagion as rigorously as we fight the biological one? Because history pretty much guarantees we're going to face another invisible biological enemy eventually. The biological fight, that's going to happen in the labs, the hospitals, the clinics. But the fight against mass panic and misinformation, that battle happens in our minds, on our screens, and in our communities. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those great questions, stay curious, and always verify the evidence.